Hey Kate.
Hey, you alright?
I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, no, not too bad. Just wished it was a bit sunnier outside, that's all.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Like, I feel like sometimes in London you get 3 months of really nice spring and it promises you for like, oh my God, we're going to have this incredible summer. And then you get into summer, it's actually kind of shit in comparison.
It's kind of like you literally get like sort of warped into ASOS and start buying all the summer clothes that you need to when they arrive and it's like, I don't need any of these.
Yeah. I know. It's so miserable. Or you wear them once, then you're like, right, I'll see you in 2020.
It's
or
just like,
2021 or whatever.
Probably 2021 at this rate.
It's so true. So you know how I actually came across you on Instagram?
I don't actually. Please do tell, because I always find it so funny that out of, the whole world, it's kind of like, I saw you eating this thing, and it's like, oh.
So I work for an app called Walk Up, which we help people get into to really busy restaurants. And I was looking at Blacklock, their photos, because they had this like amazing Instagram photo because I post for Walk Up, and then I tagged you, went onto your account, and I was like, oh, this is so crazy, this girl eats so much food, I have to talk to her.
That's amazing. I absolutely love Blacklock. Have you been?
Yeah, so good.
Oh my gosh, it's just like I'm such a fan of when a roast beef is like sort of cooked to that perfection where it's actually got the pinkiness to it. And that photo, like, I was beyond happy. Like, they put us right into like a little corner table, and I was saying goodbye to one of my friends. She was moving to New York at the time, and I was like, what is the most traditional English place I can take her to? I was like, let's go out for a roast dinner.
Yeah.
So like, it's absolutely beautiful there. The service is sublime, and like, genuinely, I cannot wait to go back when hopefully this starts getting a little bit more in the clear.
It's so good. And also the cocktails, I think, are probably the cheapest cocktails I've ever come across in a place in London. It's like $5.
I didn't even know that. I got beers.
Yeah. Mate, you fucked up. It's $5 for cocktails.
Oh my gosh. And the thing is, the food is like sublime there, that you know that the cocktails are going to be good as well.
Yeah.
£5.
Yeah. And they're like proper fancy. You can get like nice Negronis, or you can get like elderflower vodka, blah, blah, blah. They're lovely.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. I want one right now.
I know. They are really good.
We'll have to go there when this is all over.
Yes. Yeah, it would be nice to actually meet you in real life. So yeah, explain, like, people who don't know, explain a little bit about what you do essentially.
So it's a bit of an odd one, but I think the best way to explain it is, if anybody has seen like Man vs. Food with Adam Richman on the Travel Channel, on like the Food Network, I think, it's basically sort of the giant food challenges and like, the big pizzas, the giant burgers and everything. It's kind of like, I eat those. And it all sounds a bit strange, but it's a bit like, so I'll film myself eating that, and then I'll put it onto like Facebook, onto YouTube, and sort of from that it's ended up, I don't really know how it's kind of just put into two kind of I don't know how it's just kind of gone from like one place to the next type thing, but more people have started asking me for like food recommendations, and I just sort of became like more and more involved with like independent restaurants and like street food and things that, places that I was going to with my friends and really enjoying, and like, recommending to others, and then other people were going, and it just kind of grew from that. Like, I've always been doing the food challenges since, but like, it's gone into food blogging at the same time, and then just do the odd food challenge for a bit of fun, for like, working with a place that I love, that I'm just like, make me a big one.
So did you initially start off with, because I saw this YouTube video of you when you looked like pretty young and you were doing a hot dog challenge. Did you start this off because you wanted to get into food challenges?
So yeah, it really did start with like food challenges, and it was just sort of, that was pretty much my only aim with it, was like, I knew I could eat a lot and I really wanted to kind of like show that. But it was also a time where like social media wasn't really where it is today, or there weren't like tons of people who had their own personal profiles. It was like, you had the few YouTubers, like mainly in America, and then the odd couple of like, probably Zoella was like the only YouTuber in the UK or something. And I found this, I'd sort of done a lot of research into it in my own time, just sat around bored at uni or something. And I found this one competition, which is I think the one that you found, which was, it was called Grill Stock, and it's a like big food, it's like a food festival, and it's mainly based in Bristol, and they do a hot dog eating competition. And I was just like, I think I might actually have a chance at this. So I decided to enter because I thought, why not? And it was one of the very, very first times times, I was nervous. I was shaking so much. Like,
Oh, really?
because the audience is huge. So I'd probably say there was maybe like, it was well over 1,000 people in this crowd. Like, it was so busy, and I was terrified because I'd like never really done a proper one like that. And I came second, but I reckon now, like, if I were to go back into that competition, like completely amateur, like, because there are people who do this like professionally now and things that like, and there are some in the UK. If it was purely amateurs, I'd be confident enough to say that I'd win.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. Like, the stuff that I've seen you eat, I'd be kind of disappointed if you didn't, to be honest.
I'd be so like, sort of, it's one of those things that you don't want to ever back yourself just in case you embarrass yourself. So it's a bit like, I don't want to say it, but I think it basically, if I went back into that exact same competition, I would definitely win it. But I don't want to say it now because I don't know whether people like would do better than me. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's better to back yourself. If you don't back yourself, who is, you know?
No, exactly.
Yeah. And did you have to do like an audition to get accepted into that?
I didn't actually. I think it was just like free for all. I don't think they even had expectations or anything, because there is a bit more now where there's a bit more of like a professional-ish league. It's still not very like mainstream at all, but yeah, I think you just literally just signed up, and if you were, it's like first come, first serve. So I think I was there like on the day, just like straight away.
And did you have to because isn't there like a lot of technique that goes into food challenges?
Yeah, so I didn't realise this at the time or anything like that, but this challenge was 6 hot dogs. It was sort of like arranged in like a little pyramid, and then you got given like a tiny little bottle of water, like, you know, those like little bottles that you used to get at kids' parties and stuff. Yeah. It was about the size of that, and I know that like during this competition they were like, you know, the guys hosting it were like, you know, you need to like use tactics and like try using the water. And I saw some of the guys like pouring it over the bread and stuff, and I was like, I remember watching this and being like, that looks disgusting. I don't know why that's helping. It doesn't make any sense to me. I hadn't really, you know, known much about it, whereas now, like, using things like water, but because they restricted it, because it was in this like tiny little bottle and that's all you had, it's like a lot harder to kind of sip it because it comes out of that tiny little hole at the top. So whereas if you had like a pint glass, for instance, it would be much easier to kind of like gulp it with the food. So I think they were trying to use that as like a way of like, we're going to give you a little bit of a tactic but not a massive advantage. So but yeah, I mean, that's taken me a few years to kind of realize like what they were doing. At the time I was just like, that's not a lot of water and I'm really thirsty.
Please can I have some more, sir? Yeah, because I was talking to someone about this the other day, and I heard that with hot dog challenges, they wet the bread so that it kind of just slides down their throat, like that minimizes the chewing.
Yeah, and like I think like a lot of competitive eaters can like open their throat. I don't have this capability. Like I've got a big mouth, but like I can't open my throat. So like I'm sitting there like, you know, having a sip of water does help sort of digest, like sort of get it down a little bit easier, but I can't do what the guys in like America can do. I mean, there's Joey Chestnut, who I think broke the record of like doing about 76 in 10 minutes. Jesus. And I'm just like, someone sort of asked me the other day, I think, and it was like, you know, does that intimidate you? And I was just like, mate, I'd be so happy if I could get like 10 done.
Yeah, 76, that's incredible.
It's just, I don't even know how they do it, but they literally just like open their throat, they like dip the bread into the water, and like for them that is their drink. So I'm sure there's a lot more tactics to it. I just don't really know that much.
Yeah, because in America, and I don't know, maybe in the UK, but do you see, I mean, it is like a proper sport, right? People see it as like very competitive.
Yeah, in America they've actually got like a league, and there's a lot more like sort of competitions that go on annually, and there's like big prize winners and things like that. It's like, so I know that there's a girl called Molly out there who, you know, it's her full-time job to do competitive eating, but instead of, it's not the money that she gets from like social media and like brands and things like that, it's the competition money she wins. That's like her actual earnings. So her winning these competitions is her income. So it's like, whereas over in the UK, I don't think I've ever seen an award bigger than a t-shirt. Like it's not really like a thing over here that there's like proper prize money in it or anything, but in America it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, Americans, I feel like they're more naturally competitive anyway, and they have this like thing of we're going to compete against each other and there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser and things are just bigger there anyway. Like I can understand why that would be more of a thing.
I think they just love the, like the team rivalries. They love the kind of like, it's like if you've ever been to like a baseball game or anything like that, it's like if you don't wear merch, you look ridiculous because everyone else is in merch. It's kind of like, I think they just like supporting things. And, this is just like it's kind of like the competitive eating industry is one of those things where it's like, if you're not, because I was never like the sporty kid at school. I was the one that every athletics, like sports day, it was like, I'm the one who's opting to do shot put because it involves the least running. Like, it's kind of like, this is the sport for those people. It's not saying that, you didn't have to be like, I'm not saying that like the only audience in competitive eating are like sort of people who are out of shape or whatever. It's just sort of, it's a different kind of interest and it's open to anybody who's interested and things like that. So it's just, it's the same with sports. Loads of people go watch the football. Doesn't mean they're all in shape and, playing for their local football teams. It's just a different audience and it's just a little bit of fun and it's open to all whatever anyone's interested in. If people want to watch people eat, then go ahead.
Me as well. I get it's the same. Reminds me with like bodybuilding. Like it's the same kind of. A lot of people find bodybuilding like a really fascinating. It is kind of like a sport, like a fascinating thing. And there is such. I don't know if you've ever seen like YouTube videos of bodybuilding competitions, but like the audience, they like are so like woo, like they're cheering and like it's really people get really, really into it as like fans and supporting them and stuff.
And the thing is, it's like, especially as a family member, I can imagine like watching that person go through the dedication and the training. And like, I know that like building up to competitions, they have to do like, certain things with like their intake of like things like water, for instance. It's just like, there's so much thought that goes into it for them to do those like poses where, like they're moving their elbow and it's like, it's all about, the symmetry and things like that. There's so much that goes involved that, I'd probably just be cheering them on being like, they get to have dinner after this.
Yeah, I know. And they after those competitions, like because they've basically starved themselves for a long period of time or like in the run up to that for a few weeks and like managing water and everything is so controlled, you do see them getting like completely like binging on all this food because they're just like,
I don't blame them because it's like,
me neither.
I struggle just to diet in lockdown, let alone like having to like restrict on how much like water or like snacks or if someone was watching me like trying to train me for a competition during lockdown, they'd have to be taking a snack out of my hand like every 20 minutes.
No, I totally feel you. I mean like I have massive respect for the people who can commit themselves and dedicate themselves to something that is so difficult.
Absolutely. And it's it's definitely for few, not for all. And I can imagine that the people who are supporting it are just so happy to see that all that effort like does get to be seen on such like a big spectrum and can be appreciated and they can win prizes and things like that. So it's just nice to see all the, it's just nice when you see like so many people supporting it as well. Like, need like a team for the, who does the best support almost.
I know, it's so true. I'm pretty sure they do actually give prizes for stuff like that. But do you think that because I feel like there is this kind of like weird fascination of watching a girl, I know it sounds weird, but like watching a young, like pretty girl who's in shape eat this crazy amount of food, I think people find it fascinating, that's a thing. I
think it's definitely like, for me, I love the surprise factor. So it's like, I'll meet someone, I'll chat to them for a good half an hour or whatever. I won't even touch on what I do, or I'll blaze over it straight away. And then, someone can come in and just be like, do you know what she does? And they'll be like, oh, well, she works in media. And it's just like, she like does food challenges, and they're just completely like, what? It's sort of like you can talk to me about like literally anything, and without knowing that part of my job, you just would never think, you just never put the two and two together. And that's what I love surprising people with it, because it's just, you just don't expect it.
Yeah, no, not at all. I was watching one of your videos where you went to Josie's and you had like a massive stack of pancakes, and this guy came over to you and was like, are you really going to eat all that, love, or something?
I was like, I'm going to try.
Yeah, I know. It was so cute.
No, and I do love it that, you know, people are, especially in person, like there will be people who like come up to me and you're just like, you're not going to eat all that, are you? And like, and then they're sort of like, whilst they're having dinner and everything, they just keep looking over at you to see how you're getting on. I mean, I'm sure it's just a little bit of entertainment for them, but no, and like, you know, it's when they're really cheering you on, like, you've got this, you know, you're almost there, just a few more bites. And sometimes the encouragement, it really helps because you don't want to let them down.
Yeah, of course. You got, like, especially if there's pressure with people watching you. Yeah, if you don't want to let them down, I can totally see how that would be motivating in any kind of scenario.
Absolutely. And it's like, I've had it before where I remember once I did a challenge and I did it for my friend's market stall. It's like sort of around the corner from the Les Mis Theatre. I can't remember what the name of they do a lunchtime stall every day, like during the week. And they made me this like giant po' boy sandwich. So we're talking like, you know, pretty much an entire French loaf of bread type thing. Every part of it had like a different part of their sandwich, so it was filled to the brim. There was like cheese running the whole way through it. There was meat. It was crazy. And because they weren't like an established restaurant, they were just like a little food stand. So we got a table and chairs set up and everything, and a crowd started forming around me, like, you know, those acts that you see in Covent Garden, like where a guy's on a unicycle. It was like that, but I was sat there with a giant sandwich.
I feel like that would be really, really cool. But also, do you ever get it where you, like, I don't know if maybe this was more in the beginning, but you ever felt like, you know, weirdly self-conscious of like going to a place, having a friend film you, talking to a camera, people sitting around you, and like just eating as much as you could?
Oh my gosh, I remember the first few times, because it's like I always took my tripod just so that I kind of had it almost time-lapsey. It's not me kind of like going around sort of trying to film myself during it or anything. It's kind of like, I'm just gonna let this camera run. I might have like another camera at the side just to kind of like mix it up. And then if I go with somebody, I'll just ask them like, can you film it, and sort of kind of move around so that it's kind of like the video's got a bit more dimension to it. And it's sort of like, at the beginning it was terrifying because it was just me coming in with my tripod and just me asking like the staff, like, is it okay if I do this? But as time went on, I get more nervous like attempting to vlog in public. I actually am less conscious of like setting up an entire tripod and lights, because that looks more professional. Like that looks like you're really here to do something and like you've planned it and it's all properly done. Whereas if I'm like talking to myself in a camera, I always think that people think like, oh, she thinks she's big time, I have no idea who she is, kind of thing.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I used to have that when I was starting to blog, and like I would have, it really depended what mood I was in. Like days where I'd be like, yeah, this is cool, I can do this, and other days where I'd be filming myself and then halfway through a sentence I'd just be like,
yeah,
because I just feel like everyone listening to me, and I'd get warm and just be like, what am I doing?
I know. And the thing is, you either want to get it like right absolutely first time, or it's like if you mess up and someone sees it and you're like, oh my god, they hate me.
I know. And then you're like, and I hate myself.
It's just like, I'm the worst. I don't even want to be doing this. So yeah, I think that people who, you know, me setting up on a tripod, I don't feel as self-conscious as maybe I did at the beginning, but like I am amazed, you know, people who can just kind of crack their phone out in the middle of a shopping centre or whatever and start talking to their camera. If you can do that on your own, I applaud you. Like that's what I find amazing, because I still don't think I can do that.
I mean, I think a lot of that is, and I think a lot of with everything in life is how you do it. Like if you're just really confident with it and like really kind of assertive in yourself, then you can kind of pull anything off, you know?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that like, it's almost like every bit of confidence is always false confidence. It's sort of like you're trying to believe in yourself, but like you also are so worried about what other people think. And I'd love to just go in and not care what anyone thought, but I feel like those people, it's like if I had like a big gimbal and I had like a couple of people with me, it's like, okay, well, I look professional now, like this is fine. But when it's like you on your own, it's like, oh my god, like no one knows who I am, and I get that.
yeah no, 100%, I totally get that. And because because now you have like over 100,000 followers on Insta, you know, you've got a big YouTube following. I saw you're in GQ, congrats. Super cool.
That was like the coolest thing ever. Like when they got in touch, I was just like, so you're talking about like the actual GQ, right? Like I had to literally second guess them because I wasn't like, you know, when it's like, this is too much.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I just wasn't expecting that. And like, I didn't even like, I told my parents, but I didn't even like tell some of my friends and everything because I was so nervous that I'd like gone through this whole interview and they'd be like, yeah, no, something else came up. Like, we don't want it anymore. So I was like waiting until, because I mean, I think that was about 2 weeks between doing the interview and actually it being published. And I remember the girl who interviewed me, she was like, oh, it should come out soon. I was like, they hate it. They're not going to post it. But then it came out and I was like, oh my gosh, thank God.
Yeah, and like what a cool magazine, you know, that's not just that, I mean, getting published in anything is super cool, but like GQ is like really cool and respected and like...
Oh my gosh, it's definitely up there with like my highest achievements kind of thing. I think Billie Eilish was like in the cover of like last month's one, and I'm just saying, like, how on earth is like me and Billie Eilish on the same anything?
Yeah. And but so you know, having all this success, like you're in cool magazines and everything, and this isn't your full-time job, right?
It is actually.
Oh, it is your full-time job.
Yeah, this is the full-time job.
Because you just said you did media stuff. So
that's me like downplaying it. So like I come in and it depends who I'm talking to. So like sometimes I, you know, for instance, like say if I was on a date, I don't like talking about it straight away because you want to get to know the other person type thing. And sometimes if you say, you know, I do competitive eating as a job, it kind of does end up taking over the conversation a bit because the questions come out, and which is absolutely fine, and it is a big part of my life, and I do love talking about it. So it's not that it's like a problem. I'm not embarrassed about it. It's just like I want to know more about you as well before this conversation gets taken over by this one thing.
Right.
So I'll just be like, I work in like media, and if they ask a bit more about it, I'll sort of say like, oh, it's just kind of like food and drink.
Right, okay, yeah, because I thought it must be a full-time job, but then when you said media, I was like, Jesus, so you do like a media full-time job on the side, and then you this as well? Like...
No, definitely not. I don't think I'd be able to sort of keep this up as well. I feel like definitely there are a lot of foodies, funnily enough, I think there's only about 3 of us who would do it full-time. I think every other foodie has a full-time job, so it can be done and everything, and I definitely think I would be able to do it. I just think I'd be very burnt out by the end.
Yeah, and also if this is what you love doing most of the time, then like, and if you're young enough where you can spend the time making this into a full-time career, then like good for you.
And like, you know, I don't think this is like the forever career, don't get me wrong. Yeah. I'm not sort of living in a little dreamland bubble thinking, oh, my life is always going to be like this. It's, you know, I've always said it's just like if it ended tomorrow, I had a great run. I've got, you know, I've met some amazing people, I've had some amazing food, and I've had such great opportunities that can't be taken away from me. So it's just kind of keeping the reality up. I'm amazed I'm still doing it full time, I won't lie to you.
And I want to go back, like there's so many things you've mentioned that I'm like, oh my God, I want to know more about that. But like going back to when you were talking about if you go on a date with someone and they ask what you do, like, do you ever have scenarios, we were talking about, you know, dating before we started recording, like, do you ever have scenarios where people are like, oh, what's your Insta? Or, you know, like, you know, how do you navigate that when you first meet a boy or you know, whoever that you're interested in?
It's quite a funny one because I think, like, I don't normally get the kind of like, what's your Insta as much, because I don't know, maybe on Hinge it's just like it's already like linked to your profile, so you can already see sort of some pictures and things.
But, so do you link your Hinge to your Instagram already?
Yeah, but to be fair, I'm thinking of changing it back, like where it's just like hidden and stuff, trying to be a little bit more like, you know, because they'll just be like, whoa, you eat like, you know, what's with it with all the food on your profile, and I'm just like, oh
yeah.
But no, so like I have had it before where I've met someone at a bar and everything, and then, you know, we've exchanged like details, and then, you know, we start like chatting, and then they're like, oh, what's your Insta? And I sent it to them, and they were just like, okay, well, you didn't mention this. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like,
it's so funny because it's just kind of like, take it or leave it, you know, here I am.
The thing is, normally what I find so funny is like they probably don't get back to me once I've sent the Insta. They don't get back to me for about 20 minutes. And I think it's because they're like just thinking, they're probably just scrolling through, just going like, what on earth have I got myself into? But no, I mean, you know, it's one of those things that I do have like another private account, so if I wanted to like not, but like that's a really weird one. I've called it like, it's like, you know, panoramic photos, like, you know, when you get a photo of a panoramic, it's like, you know, when a panoramic goes wrong, like someone moves and it looks ridiculous and stuff. That's kind of what I put on my like personal one, because it's just stupid.
So it's like a Finsta. What do people call it? Like a fun Insta? Is it a Finsta?
Yeah, I think it's called a Finsta, but like mine's just kind of, you know, because my main Facebook is my name and it like takes over my whole job and everything. I find that like when I want to post pictures of me and my friends, I've got to be careful because of like engagement. It's just like I don't want it to be like affecting. I don't want my social life and my job to be like affected with each other. So I use the other account to be there like, I hung out with my friends today and like here's some pictures and stuff like that, so I'm not too conscious about it. I try not to be as, I used to be like really bad where it's like I wouldn't, you know, it's all work kind of thing, whereas now it's a bit like I'm trying to just be like, hey, chill, no one cares.
Right. Oh, so you try, because I saw you uploaded like some family stuff on your food account. Like, is that what you mean? Like you want to try and like incorporate that more? I just
want it to be like, you know, just normal really. It's like as you would be like following a friend kind of thing. So I've still got to be careful because it will affect engagement numbers and like Instagram algorithms and just all that kind of like blah 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 and whatever. But it's just I'd like to have some sense of like normality on the account while still trying to grow it. So it's just sort of, that's, I just don't want it to be like constantly like, here's me with food, here's me with food. It's like, I want it to be like, I'm out with my friends today and this is my family and I went on a cool trip to so-and-so. Like, I just want it to be a bit more like you're following a friend really, but for it not to be too affected like with the engagement.
Right.
So.
Is that because you want it to feel more personable, or because you want to show people that your life is like not just all about food? Or
I think it's just like, it's just what I want to post. So it's like, you know, things that I want to show, whether it gets, you know, 3 likes or whether it gets 1,000 likes. It's just something that like means something to me. You know, I posted it was from yesterday, but it's like I posted it today on my like stories, and it was just me in St. Albans with my friends. It's like the first time I went to a restaurant and I was like, oh, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
It's like first restaurant in 4 months. Yeah. Like this is the biggest news ever.
Yeah, 100%. You got to post about that.
But like, yeah, it's just trying to show, because I think some people in social media, they get so worked into like, I must produce the best content that makes sure that I fit, you know, the algorithm and stuff. And I'm like, is this even making you happy anymore?
Yes.
Like, just make sure it makes you happy. So that's kind of what I want to try and post a bit more, is just like stuff that just makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense. And if you like, you know, social media can be such a mind fuck sometimes. And I think if you go along, it took me a long time to learn this and I'm still trying to learn this, but if you can post and share what feels right to you and what you want to do, and try and block out all those things of like, what do people want to see, or like, well, how will this do that, then I think you have a real chance of like, you know, actually creating content and posting this stuff which feels most right with you, and which will probably end up causing the most engagement anyway, and then you can have like a career in doing it, rather than being pulled 5 different ways and, you know, trying to dictate what people want.
Exactly. And it's kind of like, I've just trying to make sure, because I know that people sort of, they're falling through pitfalls at the moment. You know, they're working so hard, the engagement's not there. You know, it's more and more like, not insulting to their effort. I guess it's kind of like insulting to their efforts. It's like they go through all this effort and they're just not reaping the rewards and stuff. And it's just getting them down in their like day-to-day life. And I'm like, this is the thing that's supposed to make you happy. This isn't the thing that's supposed to make you stress out twice as much and make you miserable when, you know, when you finally get to the outcome of it. It's just like, you know, take a step away, try and get back to yourself, try and get back to what makes you happy, and, you know, just start again almost. And I think I've done that a fair few times, where it's like I've stepped away. One of my best mates, I've lived with her for like 3 years and everything. She had a very like sudden, she got offered this amazing job opportunity in Australia. I know she's always wanted to work abroad, but it's like when it all happens very quickly, it's kind of like I wasn't expecting this so quickly. And I basically like took off for like a month, and It was just a bit like, I'm like, I'm off. I really struggled with it.
Really?
I was, trying to find a new flatmate at the time. I was just upset about the situation. Like, I was just trying to like juggle a few things. I wasn't busy. I wasn't like, some people are like, oh, I had to take a step away and like, get deadlines in order and things like that. Like, I wasn't busy. I was just lazy and upset.
Wow. So you were like really were affected by your best friend kind of taking off. Like, it really affected your mental health?
It wasn't really like mental health. It was just more like I knew that like posting up content, being like, wow, go to this restaurant and I'm so happy and like whatever. It's just a bit like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm really not like that happy at the minute. And like, I wanted to be a bit more in the moment. So, after like a month, I think I posted like once or twice maybe. And then I think towards the end, I did get a few messages, not loads. Cause like, I think this is again, what people think. It's like, they stop posting and they think all of a sudden everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, why is she not posting? What's going on?
Yeah.
I'm like, honestly, unless my audience literally don't care about me at all, I got a few messages towards the end just being like, is everything all right?
Yeah, eaten anything lately?
Yeah, and like, I posted up and I said, I'm sorry I've been a bit quiet recently. Like, my best mate's moving. I'm so proud of her. I'm so happy for her. It's just, whatever. And everyone was fine with it. It's just, try not to get yourself like down too much about like your own thing. It's just everyone's got their own stuff going on. Just make sure it makes you happy. Like, don't post stuff if you're miserable all week or whatever. Like, it's not going to make you any happier.
Yeah, totally. Dude, I wish I had a friend like you that like, if I was like, bye, I'm moving, they were like, I'm going off social media for a month. My best friend is leaving. Like, I would love that if all my friends did that. It's like a commemoration of me.
I'll be your friend. Like doing that. Like, you said that you were thinking of going to New York. I will literally be like packing your bags, like sort of when you go, I'm like, I'm planning my visit.
Definitely, you should come visit. I'm trying to get as many people. I'm like, yeah, come visit me, and pretending it's like, because I want you there, but I'm also like, but I also won't really know anyone and would love company from the UK.
To like explore around kind of thing, like sort of have a hometown, but also like, let's have a hometown, but explore a new town.
Literally, that's exactly what I want. So you this is your full-time job, and I'm so curious, like, how do you make money doing this? Like, do you get money from the competitions? Do you ever do it for charity? Like, how does that work in you sustaining yourself and like living and feeding yourself basically and doing this as a job?
So my main source of income is actually from like brand deals. So I've been very lucky to sort of right quite early on. I sort of came into touch with a few like brands, like quite big brands as well. And it's just sort of working with those brands. And then because with PR, it would be like one PR firm and then they'll have like 12 brands that they represent, and it's like you do a campaign for one, and if it works really well with them, they might be like, oh well, actually your audience fits really well with this and your audience fits really well with this. And because I have basically like an older male audience, so kind of like a sporty audience. It's the audience where it's basically like, I basically have everyone's boyfriend, and it's like, which is great and everything. And people think that in like almost like, they can think it how they will, but I can guarantee I've organized so many dates for them. I've organized so many anniversaries. I've organized like, sort of people coming on their like honeymoon trips and things.
No
like
way.
I've literally organized so many, because that's the type of DMs I get. I don't really get like, I get the odd few being like, flattering and very kind and everything, which is lovely. But like, I also get a lot of people being like, so I really want to take my girlfriend out to, we're staying in a hotel here. Where would you say is really good to go? And I'm like, right, well, where's your budget?
Yeah.
Where's, because obviously you've got to respect that, like, that's the thing I love about food. It's kind of like, there's no limit. It's like, we can go somewhere really, really cheap and have an amazing experience. You can go somewhere really, really expensive and still have like an amazing experience. It's just, and it can be catered to whoever's asking basically. So I try and make sure I've got like their budget in mind and kind of what vibe they're going for, if they're going for like nice drinks or if they want like a really like a lot of them, they just want like a really like wholesome meal. They're not bothered about like a flower wall or anything. So that's kind of like the relationship I have, where working with brands and everything, that's the kind of audience that I have. And actually it's not, it mainly like to have that audience, it's mainly like sportsmen, like is usually having that type of audience, like sportsmen who do like commentary or, you know, sort of on TV and things like that. And I just basically think I'm the cheaper version.
Yeah, because when I was looking at it and like reading comments and stuff like that, I did get that impression that it was kind of that audience. But because I think that guys do find that kind of thing, like sports and competitiveness, maybe more compelling for some reason.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not blind or anything. I think that being a girl and being younger probably definitely is in my favor, but also surprisingly on Facebook, which is actually like my biggest audience, it's 50-50 split. If anything, it's more females than males. So
that's interesting.
It's actually, you know, as much, and that's my biggest audience as well. Like Instagram, it's a bit more 70-30, like males to females, but Facebook is a straight down 50-50. It hasn't changed. Like from the beginning, it was 50-50, and 4 or 5 years later, it's still 50-50 gender split. So it's, you know, funnily enough, there are a lot of girls watching it as well. And, you know, I'm so grateful that there's girls still following me because I'm like, I'm such a girl's girl.
I swear I'm not trying to steal your boyfriend.
I promise I'm not. I'm really not interested.
I think partly why girls find it so fascinating, and this is definitely something which I was watching your videos saying, like, how are you not so fat? But like for girls, like, you know, because there's so much of like girls trying to watch their weight or like all of this stuff. And like now I think it's great because that is changing more, etc. But how do you stay fit and eat all this food?
So let me start this off.
Okay.
I do not have the wonder metabolism that everyone thinks I have. Like, I'm not that girl that you went to school with that was stick thin and eating like 12 burgers at lunch and going up seconds, thirds, fourths, and then having dessert afterwards. I was the girl going up having seconds and thirds, but I gained weight from it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was never the fat kid at school. I was the slightly chubbier one. Like I was, you know, I'm 5'5". I've been this height since I was about 10 years old or so. I was, you know, I'm pretty much the similar frame as well as when I was 10 years old. So as a 10-year-old, I was massive. And yeah, so over the years, like, again, never the fat, you know, I was never the fattest, but I was definitely on the larger side. And over the years, like, sort of, I wasn't happy with the way I looked. And then about sort of 16, 17, I was like, I'm gonna lose the weight. Like, I'm so upset about it. You know, I think I was only a size like 14, 16 almost, so like not even big, but just for me, I wasn't comfortable in myself and I wanted to make a change. So I did all the normal things. I exercised. I was actually started like training for a half marathon, and it was like, you know, the first bit of proper exercise I'd like ever done, really, other than like netball.
Yeah, or like rounders.
Yeah, like literally the most like English sports ever. Yeah. But yeah, so like I you know, I started getting into like running and a bit of fitness. I reduced my portion sizes. I was having salads and like more healthy meats, and I lost the weight and things, but I was just, you know, I was starving like the whole time. I was so hungry. You know how like most people their appetite shrinks once when they're dieting and things. Mine didn't.
Oh, really? You didn't after like a couple of weeks? You weren't just like wanting smaller portions anyway?
No, I was still just as hungry as like when I first started, and that's what got me into like watching all these food challenge videos, because I was dieting at the time, and it kind of, in a way, like watching someone eating the food just it felt quite satisfying almost in a way, and that's how I started like watching more and more of it. And I was watching it, I was like, I really think I can do this.
Wow,
and, like,
that's so interesting.
That's how it kind of started. So like to stay in shape and things, I am still doing I do the odd run like a couple of times a week. Again, not like masses. I run every couple of days, and you know, over like lockdown, I've actually been doing a lot more like sort of trying to do home workouts. I'm actually currently putting off a home workout today, which I'm supposed to do, and I'm like, I really can't be bothered. But like home workouts I'm doing as well. Again, this is the most exercise I've done in about like 3 years. 2 years, like the last 2 years, I haven't signed up to a gym in London. I just can't really be bothered with it. And like the last couple of years, I've just been very busy and very social, and I've just been enjoying myself. I put on a bit of weight, which I was quite happy with. I wasn't, you know, and I walked everywhere. I have the luxury of living quite central in London, so I walked to a lot of my meetings. I was very active. I wasn't exercising loads, but I was sort of trying. Yeah, my weight fluctuates sort of depending on how my week's going. So yeah, I'm not the kind of, I'm not the person that people probably see the videos and think, oh, how lucky is she? And I'm like, I'm working really hard.
Yeah.
It's like I work really hard just to look average.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, you look great. But so it's really interesting what you said before about how you were watching videos because you were dieting of people eating. Because I feel like that could have gone one of two ways. Like, and thank God it went the way of like, this is really cool, I want to try this. But it sounds like, because that's a kind of thing that people who get it in their heads when they really want to lose weight and like become obsessed with it. They're almost like anorexic people get like a fascination with people eating. So like, I'm super happy it didn't go that way for you.
No. And like the thing is, I completely understand. I feel like I've gone through phases of like taking things too far as well. Like, I've stopped myself and like sort of got myself back. But actually I'd say probably like the last, because I think when you're going through teenager stages, you're bound to sort of fall into bad traps with food and, things like that. But over the years, like of just, the more knowledge that's out online and things, and the more that you kind of like sort of the more that you read, the more that you understand, and like, you learn some bad habits when you're younger. But I'm kind of almost grateful that I went through all of that, because I, despite food challenges being my job, despite working with food as work and everything, I've probably got the healthiest relationship I've had with food in my entire life, which just kind of shows that, I'm not perfect. I've gone through ups and downs. I've gained weight, I've lost weight. It's just sort of, I'm not perfect by any means, but it's like going through all of that has made me get to where I am. And I think I've probably got the healthiest relationship I've ever had with food. And I'm so happy about it, because I just don't, I don't eat a burger and then like fear for my life kind of thing.
Yeah. Which I think is it's so important for any girl, especially when you're a teenager and like when you're a young woman, because I think we can be so affected by like social media and looking perfect and stuff. So it's important for those girls anyway, but then especially for you, like if this is your job, that you don't feel that guilt, because you shouldn't,
No, and like sort of I do get asked, like what's my routine and what do I eat, and they almost like want me to plan it out for them, and I'm just like, this is my full-time job though. Like if you're trying to do exercise and eating healthily around a very chaotic like 9 to 5, and it's never usually 9 to 5, they always, there's always extra hours being shoved in at either side, and it stresses you out and everything that goes on top of that. If you're then trying to like do what I do, like my whole job is to do this, I can't expect someone else to do the same and for it to work. And it's like there's so many implications. Like I found what works for me. I feel like everyone else needs to do their own research. But I'm happy to help. I'm happy to say like, I don't have the wonder metabolism, and like I do eat healthily, and I'm not just born lucky with it kind of thing, to show them that it's like there is, I don't have like a wonder trick or anything. It's just down to being sensible and just trying your best. And because I know that on top of a job, like I've had friends who've got really, really stressful jobs and they've put on weight over the years and they're not happy with it. And, they're just like, oh, I wish I could, I wish I could look like you. And I'm like, but we're completely different. My whole job is to look like this, honestly. It's the same with like a PT saying you should be able to do this. And it's just like, well, you work out for like 12 hours a day.
Well, exactly. That's what I find funny when like, obviously Victoria's Secret models are like superhuman anyway. And like celebrities are going to be super beautiful. But I find it funny when people look at celebrities and they're like, oh, like in a jealous way, like why is she so beautiful? I wish it was me.
Like it's not fair kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's like that is her job. Like she has like a nutritionist and a beauty person and someone who like makes sure they're eating all the right stuff and exercising at the right time. Like you can't be hard on yourself because you don't have that life.
No, exactly. And it's like you've just got to try and make the most of your own situation. Like one of my friends, like she, like I said, sort of works in a really, really high stress place, and she's sort of not been happy with her weight for like a number of years, but now she's kind of like got into a much more calm place in her life, and she sort of started focusing more on it, and she's like started seeing results with it. And I'm like, but that's great, but I would never say anything otherwise, like unless it's even it's a personal journey that girls need to go through. And like, I think whatever works best for them, try not to put like so much. I think girls put so much pressure on themselves to look a certain way, and they compare themselves to so many people, so many different body types out there. Like I know that every girl has compared themselves to their friends, their people, celebrities. It's like, why does my body not do this? It's just, you know, body shapes are so different. Like, for instance, I have no hips to save my life. I'm so jealous of any girl who can like wear a long dress because it goes nicely out of the hips.
Yeah.
Like, I look like a thing of toothpaste. I look ridiculous. But like, I can wear really short things. Like, sort of, I can get my legs out because that's something that like works on me. But me wearing a long dress, I look absolutely ridiculous. So it's sort of, you know, some people are jealous of what I've got, but I'm like, I can't wear what you've got because I do not have an hourglass figure. And it's just, you know, working, like, girls need to find out like what works to their strength, and that may not be what your best mate looks like or what the fashion trend is at the moment.
I agree with that. And whatever you have, there's always going to be things that you look at other people and you're like, I wish I looked like that. So just, you may as well just be happy with what you've got.
Me looking at Margot Robbie like
I know,
day.
right? You're just like every time I look at Emily Ratajkowski, I'm just like, but I don't understand.
It's just like, so how did your body perform that?
I know, it's mental. So then how do you manage it? Like, if, for example, you get 1 week where you've got loads of jobs, like, you know, Monday to Sunday, somebody wants to get you doing an eating challenge. Do you have to manage it in a way where you're like, no, I'm only doing one a week or something?
Yeah, so I basically only do a food challenge maybe once every couple of months, which I think people find quite surprising. That it used to be about once a month, but because I got so busy with like doing brand work and sort of food vendors, and I became a bit more like involved in like the foodie world type thing, it became like, it's not that like challenges are off the cards or anything. It's like I'm still doing them, I just don't do them as regularly because it does put a strain onto my body, and it does like affect my sort of, because a lot with the other foodie jobs, it's like, it's all to do with, you know, I go out and like be social with my friends, and, you know, we have a beer, and it's like, you know, I can't be doing food challenges on top of that every month as well. So it's just, it just sort of depends on like what's coming in at the time and everything. So like during lockdown, I've done 2, and I plan to do one maybe next week, but even then I'm still like, it was supposed to be this week, and then I'd arranged to see my friend yesterday, and like sort of I was doing a food thing earlier this week, and I was like, yeah, probably shouldn't this week, should I?
And then how do you manage it in terms of like, but we're running up to the food challenge? Do you change your diet in any way? Like, what do you eat like on a normal basis? You try, because you said you're healthy most of the time.
Yeah, so like on a normal basis, I'll just try and, you know, I'll eat like proteins, like sort of very like, I will eat salads, I'll eat fish, I'll eat chicken, I'll eat, you know, but then I'm such a sucker for snacking as well. Like, you cannot stop me from snacking. I'll have like, you know, love a good ginger nut biscuit, love, you know, I'll try and make sure it's like a low calorie one. But then my kryptonite over lockdown has been, I don't know whether you've tried these, but they're, you know, the Biscoff like ice creams.
No, but I've seen them. I think I saw on your Instagram. It's like an imaginary.
Oh my gosh! Like, it's the thing is, normally I take like pictures of, you know, like beautifully presented burgers, and like I don't normally do it of like just a product, because I mean the ice cream's not exactly like desirable to the eye or anything, but I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've had. And it's like, and the thing is, what's frustrating about it is it's so it's a Biscoff ice cream, and it's, what's annoying, because it's like, it's expensive, it's small.
Yeah, it's so small.
And it's so high in calories as well.
I'm not
so like, there's not really any good things going on here, but I'm like, I just love the taste of it. So it's sort of like, even that is like my kryptonite, you know, you can't stop me from snacking. So it's sort of, because I know how some people are like, oh, you don't need the snacks, and like, you know, you having one of these every day is going to equate to this many calories, and I'm like, yeah, but that's what's keeping me sane.
yeah, I know, totally. Like, I'm the same. I'm a massive snacker, and like, I'm sure there is a world where I could just eat 3 meals a day and not snack in between, but I'm like, the thing that does in my head of me just thinking about snacks then is not worth the energy of me just having it and forgetting about food. Like, constantly thinking about it is so unhealthy.
Exactly. And I feel like we need to kind of like get out of the kind of, because I feel like that's what will lead on to, you know, you build it up so much and then you end up having like a massive binge because you've been thinking about it constantly. It's like, you might as well give yourself a little bit of a treat every now and then. I mean, I treat myself all the time, so
yeah. And I've totally been there. Like, at university, there were times where I was like you mentioned, you sometimes went too far with food. Like, I definitely had to, now I'm at a healthy place with food, but there were times where it wasn't like that, and like it would be like 3 weeks of, you know, trying to count macros, eat the perfect amount of grams, etc. And then I'd be thinking about it so much that I just end up binging on loads of food, and then just being like, well, now I just feel a bit shit. you know.
Exactly. And like that's why sort of where I'm at now, like I'm in such a happy place with it. And you know, I can understand that if people only see the food challenges, they think like, oh, you're so lucky, you just, you know, you get to eat whatever you like. And I'm like, you don't see all the salads I'm eating.
Yeah,
like, and it's like, well, why don't you post that? I'm like, do you know how boring a salad looks? Like no one's gonna want to see this, trust me.
So my mic unfortunately cut out in this a little bit, but I essentially asked Kate, does she want to do this when she's older? What are her plans? Is this what she wants to be doing in 5 years' time?
So I've got like a couple of ideas in mind, not in terms of like, you know, I'm still thanking my lucky stars that I'm still doing this as a career. Like I think it's, you know, social media has created so many opportunities, and there are, you know, with waves and waves of people coming in with who are incredible, you know, younger people, they're stunning, they're, you know, they work so hard, they're like 50 times better than you kind of thing. It's just like, I know that there's going to be a time where I'll probably not be needed because there'll be someone else who's much, much better. But like, you know, I love what I do. I do have like, you know, a couple of ideas of sort of social media like shows that I would love to get more involved with. So it's annoying because of lockdown, it kind of, so for the last like couple of years, me and my flatmate had been you know, we've been bouncing around all over the world, just sort of like going on European trips for a joke over the weekend kind of thing, trying not to take too many holidays because she's like still at work and stuff. So like we were taking, you know, she was leaving at like sort of Friday right at the end of the day, and we were getting back at like 3 a.m. on Monday, and she was like going into the office at like 7 and...
Damn, that's such a nice life.
Yeah, like bless her, she sort of committed to it, and like we bounced around so many places, and we were staying in hostels, we did it super cheaply and everything. So we did that for like 2 years, and then I was quite happy with sort of like, I knew that the UK had like so much to offer, and it's like because I've got a UK audience, and like I went to Newcastle University, and I wanted to show, because I feel like when you mention Newcastle to people, first instant thought is they're like drinking, super cheap, Geordie Shore, like, you know, that kind of vibe, which I love. You know, don't get me wrong, still the best thing about Newcastle is, you know, the drinking scene. It's amazing, it's such a good community spirit. But like what I wanted to kind of show, because over the years, like when I was at uni, there weren't as many places, but now there's so many more places that have like come up over the years of restaurants. And I really wanted to see what, like, going up for a weekend and just doing a bit of a food tour to like be like, I know that Newcastle's known for drinking, but also there's some amazing places to go to. So I did that, and I was really nervous about posting it because I was like, this is very different to what I normally do. This is very like me kind of thing with me and my friends, and I pulled up a friend with me as well, and I posted it, and I was amazed at how well it did. Like it's almost I think it's at like 900,000 views at the moment on Facebook, which is like absolutely crazy. And like I got approval from Geordies, which was like my biggest fear. And then because of the success with that one, I've got a couple of friends who are foodies who are based in Birmingham, and I knew that Birmingham has like a really big food scene as well. So I messaged them and was like, can we please arrange a weekend? I really want to try doing a foodie tour in Birmingham. And my whole year this year was going to be doing loads of foodie tours around the UK. And I was like, when I said to my mum, I was like, when I said I wanted to spend time in the UK, I didn't mean this.
Yeah, at home for like 4 months locked up.
Yeah, so like, you know, that's something I would love to get back into, with doing like the food tours. I did one in Philadelphia, which was incredible. Like got to bounce around and found some like amazing cheesesteaks, and like,
yes, I saw that,
learn about some amazing things they do out there. Like everywhere was amazing out there. It just made me I can't believe I was only out there for like 4 days. It felt like an entire lifetime. It was incredible, and I want to do more of that as well, because like I don't want it to be like any other, you know, I know there are a lot of food traveling shows. I know there's so much already out there, but mine's a bit more like this is just, you know, a lot of food shows could be like a bit more, it's really great quality, it's really like this, and it's like mine is, but it's like a fiver. And it's like, you know, the place that's so easily like accessible, and it's just, you know, you're going to the locals' favourite. It's like the reason why they go to this fish and chips is because X, Y, and Z, and they love the guy who works behind the counter. And, you know, I'm not saying that other programs, like I haven't delved into too many programs, but I know that they're out there. But like that's kind of what I wanted to do. And, you know, but then again, like I said, I feel like there are so many young, talented, amazing people who could probably come in and do this at the same time as well. So I'm just trying to get maybe ahead of it before they do.
So it sounds like you really care about like community and the people behind the food and like the story that goes into that.
Oh my gosh, it's like the best part. Some of my like favorite people are people who work like in the restaurant business because they are so talented. Like some of the food creations they can make, and then they're selling it for something. I'm just there like, you should be selling this for like 30 quid. I don't understand how this is 5.
Yeah.
But like they're so amazing, and they appreciate you being there, and like I'm just there like, they'll be like, oh, please try this, and I'm just there like, stop giving me nice things, like I will pay for it because it's that good, so please stop it. So and I don't know, like the food and drinks industry, it's not, from what I've heard anyways, it's just like it's the nicest industry. Everyone's so welcoming. No one seems to really like one up each other. Like I'm sure that there are so many lovely industries and everything, but just from what I've heard with like fitness, and no, maybe not fitness is a bad example, but like fashion and beauty, there can be like cattiness and things. I'm like, in the food and drinks industry, it's so funny because a brand will come to, a brand will message me and be like, we're working on this campaign. I'm just like, oh yeah, like blah blah, I know blah 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 blah, and it's like I'm friends with all of these guys.
Yeah, that's so nice. I honestly like, because obviously I work in restaurants as well, and like I completely agree with that. The restaurant industry can be, I think it is the nicest industry that, like, I mean, so far that I've worked in, because people are like family, like they've created this community and they care about each other, and they've poured their, creating food in a menu is a creative, artistic process. And so people put their heart and soul into doing that. And then when they have people there like you, or, diners who come in and enjoy that, for them, it's like they're everything.
Absolutely. And it's a bit like, I kind of like imagine it as like being like one giant Italian family, with the Italian mum who's like sort of, it's like phones off, like phones completely like, in a cupboard or anything. We are going to be here for 7 hours. Like, it's everything happens around the dinner table. Everyone gets involved. Everyone helps out. Doesn't matter whether you're great at cooking. Doesn't matter whether you're the worst at cooking. It's just like, as long as you're up for trying and giving things a go, and like, it's sort of, as long as you like want to, and like, because the food industry doesn't discriminate to anything, the evolution of like sort of where veganism's come out of, like, gluten-free meals and dairy, so many people are having like oat milk instead of having like normal milk. And like, I know bloggers who literally blog about, their restaurant experiences and having like IBS and stuff. Like there's so many things that, weren't spoken about now, and it's developed, and restaurants are being tested basically. It's a bit like, can you make a vegan burger that tastes just as good as the rest of your menu? Like, are you able to do this? Can you cater to this? Like, do you have the requirements, and can you still satisfy the customer? Like it's testing it almost, but they're almost like happy for the challenge.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it's the same with any industry, but if restaurants and people, if they don't adapt to the way that people are changing their lifestyles, or the way that people want to eat out, or the things that they're eating out, it could kill them. So like they have to, and it's great when you see them taking on that challenge and they're excited about it.
And it's like, getting it to like live up to the rest of their menu, I think, is, because I know a restaurant that still hasn't released a vegan burger. They've got a vegetarian burger, but they haven't released a vegan one yet. Not because they're against it or anything, it's because they're just like, we can't get a recipe that lives up to the rest of our menu yet. Like, we're really, really trying. We're still working on it. It will come eventually. We're almost there, but like, we still haven't got it. But when we do, we'll be ready. And like, they've always said it to like vegans, being like, look, we want to be vegan friendly. We are working towards it. We just want to make sure that it lives up to the expectations that you have with the rest of the menu. So, there are places that are still trying, and these places are super successful. It's just like they're still working on it because they just want to make sure that they're doing it as absolutely as best as possible, and aren't just kind of throwing out for the sake of, oh, well, we need an option. So it's nice, and like, you can't really like be upset with anyone who's not trying to take on for a challenge. So
it's funny because I initially was going to ask you about you know, because food is such a sitting around the table, you're sharing this experience with someone and catching up and all this and all that kind of stuff. And that if potentially what you do negates from that, but then again, like, one, I guess it's more kind of like a sport thing, or the challenges, and also you get all of that, but just behind the scenes, like when you meet the people and the cooks, and you know, you share this experience with them, and then sharing the content that you make for them, I guess you get that anyway.
Yeah, no, it is kind of like, I'd not really thought about it like that, but it kind of had been, you know, I get there early, I chat with the guy, like I always organise it beforehand. I don't just kind of like waltz up and it's like, hi, I'm going to do a food challenge today type thing. Like that's, you know, not, I don't do that at all. But so, you know, I get to meet the guys, you know, I make sure that I film their place to make sure that they're getting, you know, the recognition they deserve, because they're the ones who are actually cooking it, not me. Like they're the talented ones. I'm just here to set up a camera and eat something. But like normally when I sort of start it, people, because you know it's quite hard in, like, you know, places like London as well, it's like to find talking points just randomly, like spontaneously out of nowhere type thing. Whereas, you know, me doing this food challenge, you kind of like look around and it's like, is this as weird as I think it is, kind of thing? And they're probably chatting and just be like, I'm hypnotized, but this is kind of strange, isn't it? Like, you know, they're probably chatting and they're probably like, you know, met someone they didn't even realize. So like, you know, even though I'm not part of the conversation, I like to hope that maybe I started it up a little bit. You know, I've chatted with so many, you know, I do cut out of the videos because I don't think that, like, I don't have like, you know, disclosure forms or anything for them to sign. So it's a bit like, I know that a lot of people aren't comfortable with being on camera or want their voices on camera or anything like that. So I always try and like get a feel of who I'm talking to. You know, are you okay with being in film? If I think they're in shot and they're, you know, if I feel like they're not going to be comfortable with it, I might just say like, oh, by the way, you might be like slightly in shot. If you, I'm happy to move it, or if you don't, you know, if you want to move, I'll never like interrupt somebody, but it's like, it's happened where someone's, you know, been so interested they want to watch it and like they've moved to kind of sit where they want to watch it, and I'm just like, just to let you know, you are in, you're like in my shot,
yeah.
So you're more than welcome to watch, and that's totally fine, but just to let you know. And they're like, a lot of them just kind of like, oh, sorry, like, you know, and I'm like, it's fine, you know, still keep chatting with me, like it's all okay, like, you know, I love chatting with people whilst doing it, because some people, they'll stand there in silence. I'm like, guys, you can talk to me, like it's fine.
Yeah, well, whilst you eat though, isn't that dangerous? Don't you get scared you'll choke or something?
Luckily not, like, because like I said earlier, like I can't open my throat or anything, which is, I think, possibly like the reason behind the choking. Like I do sort of sit there, it's just like, it sounds ridiculous, like I sit and really enjoy my food, like I sit there, I chew it, I savor every bite, I savor every flavor type thing, and you know, I've never really had a problem with it. So it's not something that you know, I know it's something that can happen, especially in like I think that's the reason why, well, it's not the reason, but it's like, I don't like the kind of competitive atmosphere, especially when I know that people are going to beat me, and it's like, you want to look like you're trying your best type thing. That's probably the most likely place that I'm going to do it. But if it's just me sat with my tripod, you know, I've had a couple of like time limit ones, but I tend to eat quite fast anyway. So whereas normally I've organised with the restaurant, it's my challenge, I get to do what I want with it type thing, and I go at my own pace. So I've never really had a problem with it, luckily.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it sounds like you're very much in control of how it goes, and not the competition, but the experience in itself. And the best thing about that is you get to enjoy it. You know? Yeah,
absolutely. And like sort of I've spoken with restaurants, and they're like, you know, we can make a challenge for you, and we chat about how big it's going to be, and they're like, you know, they'll suggest something and I'll be like, oh, that's like far too big, I don't think, you know, because it depends what they're after. If they want to make something absolutely like ginormous, and I think I'm going to get about a quarter of the way through it and everything, it's just like, it doesn't make, you know, it's the thing that doesn't make the headlines. It's like, if it's like girl finishes this, that's the thing that's going to go into the news, that's the thing that you're going to see online. You're not going to sort of watch a video and be like, girl gets, you know, 5 bites into it, realizes she can't do it. It's just like, that's not an interesting video. So, you know, if you make it so big, like there are some videos where it's like, it can be massive and that will still go viral because it's just a fun concept, and you know, you send it to your mate who you think has got the biggest appetite in the world, that type of thing. But I try and like work with the restaurant to be like, let's make something that I think I'm capable of finishing. But I'll always, you know, every time over the years things have got like slightly bigger,
right.
Just because it's like, it's sort of, you know, I think my first ever challenge was like a 24-ounce burger, and then like last year I finished my first ever 50-ounce burger, so like that's taken like sort of 3 years, and I've managed to almost double it in size.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
So yeah, so it's sort of, I do feel like I'm in control a lot of the time, but also it's like it's up to them what kind of outcome they want from it, and you know, if they want me to finish it or not. And usually like they're I'd say like 99% of the time they want to work with me, and they will just go with whatever they think is best for me, which is I'm so lucky to have.
Yeah, that is incredible. It's so nice to build relationships like that. And do you ever get criticism or like hate from people who I don't know, because I was just trying to think about it, you know, what kind of people would like oppose it, or people being like, oh, it's food going to waste, or anything like that? I mean, maybe not. I was just trying to think
so basically, if one of my videos gets picked up like by newspapers, so we're talking like, let's be real, it's the Daily Mail commenters, and like I know what I do is very controversial. I don't go into every situation and think everyone's gonna love what I do, and I'm like, let's be honest, this is a very controversial subject. If you don't know everything about it, like the first instinct is like, that's a bit, you know, some people can be very disapproving, which I completely understand. I don't come in and think, well, how can they not understand? It's just like, I totally get it. But yeah, it's the Daily Mail commenters, and I think they hate everyone. So and I've actually had an experience with, like, for instance, the Daily Mail. This was a few years ago, and so ages ago, I think it's been about 3 years now, I used to be a kids entertainer. So I used to dress up as like the Disney princesses. I dressed up as like, you know, sort of, I've dressed up as like a Power Ranger. I've been animals. I've been Batgirl. I've been superheroes. I've been everything. Like I've had a lot of fun with that job. But it was quite funny because it was a comment on the Daily Mail, and it was from this lady. I'm just gonna call her Melissa. I don't know. So Melissa writes, and she's just like, this is so disgusting. You're such a bad role model towards girls, and you know, things like that. It's so, you know, it's wrong. And I was like, I looked at this comment and I was like, this name looks really familiar. So I clicked on her profile and I started going through, and I was just like, okay. So I replied back to her comment and was like, hi, Melissa. That's really funny you should say that, because actually 3 months ago, you had a kid's birthday party with Elsa as a children's entertainer. That was me.
No way.
You came up to me afterwards, said how wonderful I was with your daughter and all the girls. And I know this because you tipped me.
Oh my God, good for you.
And then she like deleted the comment like within minutes and was like, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. And I was like, you know, I had a bit of a joke with it. I just said like, look, I get it. You didn't put the 2 and 2 together, but just sort of like, I said, that's absolutely fine. You didn't understand. I don't mind people putting out their opinions. It's me putting myself into a public eye. I totally get it. You know, I should expect bad reviews from things as well. That's fine. But it's just there, like, just try to understand that, like, you've seen about 0.5% of my life. Like, you know, I do this one thing, I do this food challenge, and all of a sudden everyone thinks they know me. And I'm like, sometimes you just don't, you know? And like, that was a real kind of, and from then on, I think I've just kind of, you know, if I do get the comments being like, you're a bad role model, or you're this, or you're that, I'm just there like, I can guarantee, I'm not saying that everyone has to like me. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that, you know, I'm not someone that everyone needs to like or whatever, you know, you'd be daft if you think that everyone's going to like you. But I like to hope that if I did meet them, that they at least wouldn't be disgusted with me.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. No one is ever going to like you. And I think there's a quote out there that's like, if everyone likes you, then you're doing something wrong or something like that. But it's I find it fascinating when you have these kind of keyboard warriors who, and honestly, I think that they a lot of the time are projecting some kind of insecurity or frustration that they feel, and they're putting it on you. And if honestly, like 9 times out of 10, if you had a phone conversation with these people and spoke to them, they'd be really nice and probably be like, but quite apologetic and be like, I didn't know, because you don't associate that person with being a human being when it's behind a screen.
No, absolutely. And like, sort of, as I said before, it's like being in the public eye, you can't expect to just purely have like positive reactions to everything that you do. I mean, it's, you know, it's just not the way the world works. Like, you're not, you're not invincible to any bit of criticism. It's like someone is going to hate something about you at some point, but it's just trying to sort of go in with the bravery. If you're going to go into the public eye, it's just going in with the bravery of, you hear these things and trying not to let it affect you. Like, don't, I remember sort of over the last couple of years, like I gained a little bit of weight, and like I started getting comments even from my guy mates, like not in like they didn't mean this in a way. If anything, it should be really flattering, but like some of my mates genuinely thought I had a boob job.
No way.
Like,
wow, I wish I had that problem.
Well, like you say that, but I mean, I'm very good at disguising the weight everywhere else. Like I'm very good at wearing like sort of tight things to the right places, and just like dressing to my body figure and stuff. But like that was, and I was there like, oh, that's fine and everything. But years and years ago, that would have gotten me so down. I was like, oh my gosh, people are really noticing that I'm putting on weight. Like that would have really, really bothered me. So over the years of like doing social media and things, it's like, it's definitely built me, like given me more of a backbone. It's definitely like made me braver. I try not to, like, I definitely don't reply to the bad comments anymore, because like it's almost like that's what they want, like that's what they like get off of, and it's like I don't want to give you anything to go off of. And like the only time I ever will is like I'll maybe reply, if they're, especially when people are like, oh, how do she's so lucky she stays so skinny, and I'm like, hun, this isn't luckiness, this is me working really hard. But and then I'll just be like, I hope this makes sense, I hope this understand, like really friendly. And I'd say about 99% of the time they come back, I'm so sorry, and like you say, if you actually got them on the phone, they'd be really nice to you and apologetic and everything. It's just just try not to let like the bad comments get to you, because I just, you're not going to be liked by everybody, and they're going to probably forget about it in like half an hour. So
yeah, exactly. And it's not about you most of the time, it doesn't have anything to do with you. Like they're going to hate on someone, and like you said, that a lot of the time these people, they just want attention, and they're just there. If they're not a troll, then they're just there and like getting their anger out in some reason. Maybe they had a shit day and they're just putting it on you. Like there's just no point in trying to change that person or the comment or...
No, exactly. And if you really feel the need, and I have done this in the past where I've written a reply and it's been lengthy as well, when you've like, it's just like, what, I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind kind of thing.
Yeah, you've got time. You're like, okay,
and it ends up becoming like your own mini like personal novel almost of like how much you hate this kid or whatever, and then just delete it. And honestly, I know it's like one of the really like 101 how to get over something. I'm like, it helps so much. I've done it multiple times. Just make sure, because I think once I almost sent it and I was like, oh my god, that was so close.
Yeah, no, that's so right. Like even if it's a mess, someone who's pissed me off or something, doesn't even have to be a mean comment. When you write it out and you express yourself and you feel like, okay, I've got that out, I understand like why.
It's almost like getting it out of your body. Like, you need to like vent it out of your body. Like, bless my mum, she is an absolute angel sent from heaven above. She listens to me rant about things, things that just like tick you off or whatever. And obviously because of lockdown, there's like no one else to talk to. I'm like, oh my god, my mum, I'm so sorry, your ears must bleed every day.
Yes, I get that. My mum and my best friend, like I call them and I'm like, I am so sorry that we're friends, but you just need to listen to me for half an hour.
Yeah, it's like I need to be upset about this, and you also need to be upset about this too.
Exactly. Yeah, they have to feel the pain. I need empathy right now.
Exactly. But like I think it's, you just have to go in, like if you're going to be on social media, you've kind of got to like just go in with the expectation that not everyone's going to like you, and just and understand that. And I'm someone who like desperately needs to be liked, so like I completely get it if someone isn't as strong of a person to take on the criticism and everything. And I'm very fortunate I actually don't get a lot on my personal, like I'm incredibly fortunate that I don't, because what I do is ridiculous and shouldn't probably get the amount of support that it does, but like I'm very, very lucky with it, and I just appreciate it constantly. So yeah, it's just with the trolls and things, just try not to take it too much to heart, which is easier said than done, but
And yeah, as we like kind of wrap this up, because we've been going for a while, and like I've literally been loving talking to you, and I still have so many questions, but to kind of wrap this up, if there's somebody out there who they want to do this as a career, or they want to get involved in food challenges, is there any kind of advice that you would give them or anything like that?
So at the moment, it's like, because obviously over the years, the food industry, like they've become like more and more food bloggers and everything. And it's, it's a very saturated market and stuff, but it still doesn't mean that there isn't room for new people to come in. I've seen people come in over the years. I'd say, you know, work on your own content, make sure that it makes you happy, make sure that, like, you know, try and find a niche if you can. I know that's much easier said than done. You know, even go back to basics, like go to simplicity. You don't have to be having like a 4-stack burger in order to hit the explore page or anything. It doesn't have to be like the biggest thing. I mean, what I've started noticing recently is like I've gone a bit more backwards and I've gone to more like England, like traditional English foods, thing that you don't necessarily see on your timeline anymore, like a nice roast dinner or like fish and chips or like, you know, things like that, that's very like wholesome and whatnot. Not saying that everyone needs to do it, it's just sort of something that I've noticed that works for me. You know, just make sure that your photos are like nice and bright and stuff that you're, you know, happy, that fits. Like, don't worry too much about having like an aesthetic. I know that that works for some people, but like I don't, and it still works fine for me. Make sure it's personal with you, and you know, and like if you're at a stage where you think that like you're ready to kind of take on brands and things, you know, you can literally, I've seen people with 1,000 followers start working with brands. Like, I'm not saying, you know, micro has gotten such a shining light onto it, and I applaud micro influencers. I think they do such a fantastic job, and you know, they work their asses off, and they produce amazing content, and they're so dedicated and passionate. Like, you know, start looking at some PRs, like message them, just say hi, like I'm really interested, I'm based in this area. You know, literally, even if you just Google PRs in whatever area that you're in, like just give it a go. You know, you can send 1,000,001 emails. It's like a job application. You can send 1,000,001, not hear back from them. You send one, you get in, you go to like one event that they might invite you to, you then meet more people. Like, you know, I'm not saying that it will definitely happen for everybody, but it's just like you start somewhere, you give it a go and just try your best. And if not, drop me a DM. Just like, I'll give you some really specific advice if you catch me on a day where I'm not busy. So
amongst the guys who are asking you where they should take their girl from Valentine's Day.
It's fine, just as long as it comes in with a question, you know. I'm sure you must get it as well, where like the DMs where it's just like, hi, what's up? And you're just a bit like, what am I supposed to go off of this? But if you've got like a question, and if I'm not busy, if I'm like not out with my friends, or if I'm not working or anything, I'm usually on my phone. So I do try and get back to, I mean, I'm not saying I get back to every DM, but like I get back to a few. And if you've got some really, you know, I've been answering a couple of girls who got in touch recently, and they were asking the same question, like, how do you get into the food industry? One of the girls, she caught me on a day where I'd literally, I think it was like day 2 of doing like absolutely nothing. And I just went in on it. Like, I had my Instagram like up on my desktop. I'm typing at the speed of like, I think this girl was so shocked at how quickly I was getting back to her. Like, if you catch me on a day where I've not got a lot on, I can really give you all the time in the world. So, you know, if that is the case, if my answers aren't good enough for you and you still want to like learn a bit more, feel free to drop me a DM, because I'm happy, you know, if you catch me on a good day, I'm happy to answer.
That's really nice of you, you know, because a lot of people who want to get involved with that kind of thing, I think they feel like they can't reach out to the person in the field that they're inspired by because they don't have time or they're too busy or anything. And I think it's really cool of you to firstly give out really good advice and then also offer for people to reach out. Like, that's very nice.
I'm quite fortunate that like this is my full-time job, whereas like some of the other foodies, like I'm sure that they'd love to get back to like every single DM, and some of them actually do, which I just literally applaud them for, because they're amazing, because they'll be working in like, you know, sort of, one of them works like, I think in like Specsavers like headquarters, and that's his like full-time gig, as well as he goes to London constantly, and he's, you know, constantly in and out of his like local town, and he's constantly on the move type thing. And I'm like, where do you find the time for this? And then he's replying back to people's DMs as well. I'm just like, how do you do this? You know, I'm fortunate in the time, you know, with the time that I'm given. I try and give back as much as possible, because I think it's, you know, I'm so grateful for the job that I have, and I wouldn't be there without the people asking those questions and being so interested, and you know, why they pick me to ask. It's lovely. So if I do have the time, I will definitely try and get back, as long as it's definitely a question and not just like, what's up?